Welcome to another edition of the Book of Stephen podcast, Islam versus the World 3, the final chapter. Okay, the greatest catastrophe, America in the world versus the greatest success, which is Islam. Okay, so the greatest catastrophe by number, which is the number of men that will die from America in the world as it gathers up its armies to destroy the nation that is Islam. And the greatest success, the number of men that will be blessed and have and accept the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we're seeing both those things before our eyes now. So the greatest success, go and speak to him. This is the basis for it. And as I go and speak to Ishmael, and the rising sun goes and speak to Ishmael, so shall shepherds and believers from all the nations do the same. And I will cripple all of her armies, the greatest catastrophe. As America's army goes, so shall the rest of the NATO nations and the rest of the nations go as well, because they're built on the wrong foundation. I will cripple all of her armies, the declaration by the Lord. This is the foundation of the greatest catastrophe in human history yet. Soon another great catastrophe will surpass it, which is the death of hundreds of millions of soldiers and men from amongst the nations. And the greatest success, go and speak to him, Ishmael, which is the blessing of hundreds of millions, a tit for a tat. As God will bless his people, so shall the people of the world be struck down and destroyed and killed for the evil that they do in their armies with them. So, the greatest catastrophe versus the greatest success. I talked about this in the previous podcast, but I had the numbers on the greatest success, but not on the greatest catastrophe. In fact, the men of America and the world will be destroyed by the hundreds of millions. Now, I could have told you yesterday in Holy versus Unholy Expansion, a video on the Book of Stephen channel right here, the Islamic Empire, America versus the Kingdom of Heaven. So I told you about how the number of the Kingdom of Heaven that the blessing will go through Islam, or the nation that is Ishmael, or the nation that Ishmael became Islam. But I did not have numbers on the unholy expansion attempt. Death by the hundreds of millions. The greatest catastrophe up to this point has been, I believe, like Spanish flu, 100 to 150 billion killed. So this is a much greater catastrophe. Unbelievable numbers. But coronavirus, as we can see, the world is suffering with this. Confinement for confinement. 1 million of God's people are down, and they're attempting to confine many more. And God has struck down many more with coronavirus and afflicted them. So confinement for confinement there. This will be destruction for destruction. So that's what I heard from heaven. So the final sequence of this fight is going down now. We had with coronavirus a dirty low blow by America, a dirty of confinement. And we had a policing dirty low blow by God. And the final blow will be clashing or synchronizing, how would you say, I guess maybe it's two orthodox fighters, but left hook for left hook. America throwing a left hook of destruction by the hundreds of millions, and God throwing one, and America shall land. Or America shall be down. America shall not land, and God's shall land. All right? So America will be downed and destroyed, and the world and its armies and men with it. Destruction by the hundreds of millions. Unthinkable. But this last dirty low blow lets us know that it's not. Because as the world has attempted to confine God's people, 1 million Uyghurs in China, the source of the affliction comes from the most disturbing act of confinement by the world yet, which is the confinement of the Uyghur Muslims in China. 1 million of them down. 1 million of the homies down. So, yes, the greatest catastrophe is right around the corner. The catalyst for it, of course, the destruction of a football stadium. All right? That's the silence of the lambs. Destruction of the shepherd, the sheep, and the feeding place. And so that's the beginnings or the climax of the world's attempted destruction of the Uyghur Muslims. So I have to say that yeah, there you have it. So The greatest catastrophe is right around the corner, and we're getting closer. And I would have never thought it would have come to something like this, but yes, the source of coronavirus is a nation that has been confining God's people, and nobody said anything. Everybody continued to lay down with the horror that China is, and that's not good because China is a dying civilization. It's time that the nation separate itself from it. It is set to be broken to pieces, and the main part of it burned, and that will be a greater catastrophe even in this day. But the greatest catastrophe yet is, of course, this: God crippling all the armies of the earth that America gathers. Hundreds of millions dead, destroyed. Coronavirus will not get that bad. So, coronavirus should soon pass over. But isn't it ironic that as God is handing out crowns to his people, the world is being afflicted with a virus of crown. So the nation that is Islam is said to be blessed and receive his crown, according to the promise made to Abraham that Ishmael will be surely blessed. But the world is receiving crowns of shame and affliction at this point. Isn't that something? So, crowning moment in history. Two juxtaposing crowns. The crowns of shame, affliction, and death that the world is wearing with coronavirus. And the crown of glory that Islam is wearing. The dissemination of the gospel amongst his people according to the promise made to Abraham. Hope you've enjoyed this podcast, guys. Greatest success, Islam. Greatest catastrophe. Can you smell it? I can. Right around the corner. Peace out.